This is Kugan Cassius for iFLTV with the launch press conference for Frank Warren's Magnificent 7 show on December 7th. We're joined by trainer Joe Gallagher. Joe, how are you, mate?
Not bad. I'm trying to get a train back for Old Trafford because Man U are at home tonight, aren't they? So I'll stick around just to do this one for you Cougs.
Much appreciated. We can talk football all day, but obviously we're here for...
Let's not talk Arsenal, shall we?
At least we're in the Champions League. Anyway, Joe.
No problem, but you've blown the league. Go on.
Early days, Joe.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of intrigued to see his obvious move, Lawrence Okolie, to heavyweight. This is his introduction. How do you think he's going to get on as a heavyweight in the mix with all these guys?
I think him having his fight at Bridgeweight was a great move to allow him to fight at a heavier weight without really getting stuck into the big boys. When he weighed in to fight in Poland, he weighed 16 stone, the same weight Usyk weighed, and it made him think, okay, well that's how he's done. And then he got in there, got in the ring around 16 and a half, 16.8, and he was good, he was athletic, he's been performing really well in the gym, in around the 17 stone mark, good feet, fast hands, running out of sparring partners, and now to come back to heavyweight, and like I'm saying, Lawrence, just because you're heavyweight doesn't mean you go to 18, 18.5, 9, because you can be slow and cumbersome. We've got to keep you where I think your best performing weight is, and I think he's got to surprise everyone. Not only that, he's got them horrendous times of having to kill yourself to make weight in saunas, or they can be mentally damaging, but he's got to be careful that he doesn't become a 19, 20 stone, do you know what I mean? But he's got to be performing. But yeah, I think everyone's got to be surprised with him. I think I was pleased he won in the first round, but at the same time I was annoyed because there was so much work that we'd done that we didn't get to see. But we've got a really good opponent, Hussein Mohammed. He's ambitious, 13 knockouts, 18 wins, and that's what Lawrence needs, that fear factor. Because I feel if Lawrence was, as you know, he's quite a laid-back guy. He's like, yeah, I'll turn up, yeah. And everything's always become a little bit too easy for him early on in his career. Qualified Olympics, turned pro, rocked up, beat this kid. Yeah, I'll beat him. And emotionally rocked up with Bill Smith, going, I've sparred him, but I'll beat him. So that loss has changed his mindset. Everything else, he said he enjoyed becoming a world champion again for the second time, miles better. He said he was got to be like Floyd, carry his belt here, there, everywhere. And he realises the seriousness of the sport, that also that a loss, and you're in the wilderness and you're forgotten about, and he was out of the wilderness for a good while, but he's back now. Obviously winning that WBC Bridgeweight has given him a top 5 WBC ranking, and performs well on here, and he's ready to get in the mix with the big boys.
Joe, it's a question that I did ask Lawrence, and it stems back from a few years ago where he had a little thing with Dillian Whyte. I asked him the question now, as a heavyweight, is that a fight that would what?
That won't happen.
No. Okolie and Whyte wouldn't happen?
No.
How come you're shutting that down so quickly?
We've already talked about it. I've just said that fight's never going to happen.
For no reason in particular?
No reason before, but I just think Dylan, Derek, they've all had their time, they've all had their experience, they've all had their big paydays, and beating Dillian Whyte doesn't move Lawrence Okolie up any WBC ratings or anything else, so we're looking ahead of us, and that is it. So if you understand it from that point of view, Dylan's got everything to gain and we've got nothing to gain. Does that make sense? With our ranking and where we are, and in the ranking you look yourself as a share in the stock exchange, and we're quite high up there now, and we want to get to that position and then ready to come on then, whether it be Joseph Parker, whoever it would be, Fury, Usyk, Anthony Joshua, they'll be all done. So once they're done, we've got to have like the 80s where all the belts were fragmented. Then you've got to get Kabiel, who I think is like the main man out of all of them. Kabiel.
Still underrated as well.
100% Kabiel. Then there's Bikola. Then you've got Daniel Dubois, do you understand? And all the fighters that are coming, Joseph Parker, and you've got Jobelev, all them guys that are all coming through now, all the big punchers. The heavyweight has just got to be a crazy scene for 3 or 4 years. They've got to be beating each other. They'll lose to him, then he'll beat him, and Lawrence wants to be in that mix. And listen, Dylan's served us some great nights and great times, and he's a great talker, and so is Derek. And listen, Derek's well deserving of a good payday, and I'm sure Dylan's had plenty of good paydays, but don't be getting them off my boy Lawrence Okolie.
But before anything, obviously he's got a job to do on December 7th.
100%.
Joe, I do want to ask you about a very special talent you have in your gym in Joe Cooper. 2 fights now.
I didn't know which one you meant then for a minute. I thought you were going to talk Mike Talon, Clark Smith, like those got rates. And Mo just made his pro debut in Saudi. Only 7 amateur fights and put a great performance on the big stage like that. So which one were you on?
The question was specifically to Joe Cooper.
I have to do that, or the lads will start going, what about me?
Yeah, what about me? All those guys obviously worthy of mention as well.
People out there, McCall, McGowan, there's a few of them there. Billy Dennis, Josh Holmes, go on, carry on.
You've done your bit there, absolutely. But in terms of Joe Cooper, 2 fights now. Have you assessed his 2 fights, and what kind of talent is Joe Cooper?
I said it to Frank after the second fight. I messaged him and showed him a few little clips, and I just said, listen, this kid's 18, he's learning on the job. He hasn't fought since he was 16, and all of a sudden he's thrust into the spotlight. He's a boy that's learning. I said, but the time he gets to 22, 23, 5 years experience, and 22, 23 is young, and he'll be at 18, 19, 20, and he's got man strength, he's got to be one world red-hot prospect. I said, he's gone in with 2 decent journeymen there. The second one came for him in the last round, putting Joe being Joe, sitting on the ropes last round, going, come on then, I'll have it with you. The naivety, the youth in them, but once we can get him going and he's learning on the job, I'm sure he'll grow up in weight division. He'll end up being a super middleweight. But I do feel he's got to be a really exciting fighter. He's learning. He was miles better in his second fight than was his first fight. He was even giving the Billy Joes and giving it all that type of stuff. But he's punching and he's learning on the job. And he's a boy that's becoming a man. But I do really think once he gets to 22, 23, having these amount of years boxing, 5-6 fights a year with a record of around 20-0, I just think everyone's got to go, wow, I really do feel this is somebody that once we get there, he's got to get there and go, wow, he did the right thing turning pro at 18. But he's still, regardless of his beard and his everything else, he's still only a baby. He's 18, and we've got to make sure that we don't push him too early. He's a baby that's learning on the job, but I think he's someone that you invest for the long road, because eventually you'll be rewarded very well, and I think Joe Cooper's that type of man.
A raw talent.
I think he has got talent. What he achieved in the amateurs with only 1 amateur loss and everything else shows you that has talent, but that was that talent for his age and his weight and everything else. Now we're into a man's sport, and that fighting men that are like grown men that can physically push you about, but I do feel he has exceptional talent, can hit, and we've just got to nurture that. But I do think, come and speak to him when Joe Cooper's age 22, 23, and he'll be on the lips of everybody.
Okay, Joe, have you got anything you'd like to add or get off your chest, Joe? That's a dangerous question, isn't it?
Oh, well,
maybe
listen,
another time, I don't know.
No, listen, if you want to get me, not that I already am, exiled out from everybody in boxing, but you did mention before when Tasha's out, still don't know at the moment. I'm a little bit frustrated on that situation, Kugan. She had an unbelievable performance in January, one of the fights of the year against Michaela Meyer, and we got our signature win, the big scalp to seal her career off. I said to Natasha, retire, what else is there to do? The plan was for her to fight in May, June, and then one more now, and she's done. Here we are in November, whatever date it is today, and we've still got no date, no opponent or anything else, and I just think to myself, that's not really a good way to handle someone who's absolutely done fantastic over the last couple of years, won the British Boxing Board of Control's female fighter first when everyone to do it. And I tried to explain to Natasha, I said, Natasha, this is how it is. You've just won the Grand National, I said. And then they've gone and put you in the stable for a year, but they've not give you a run out. In the meantime, all the other horses are having run outs. Then they want to pull you out after a year locked in the stable and fight these or race these other horses who have been running of you. You need to fight, otherwise, I've said to her all year for the last 4 or 5 months, just retire now, Tash, it's done, it's gone, for whatever reasons. Do you know what I mean? We did the fight with Hazaban, that's been negotiated and done for the last 4 or 5 months. It was August, it was September, it was October, still isn't. And I just feel to myself, for whatever reason, and tell me if this doesn't make sense. So Natasha Jonas fights Habazan, the WBC champion. Michaela Meyer's just won a belt. So in the meantime, Michaela Meyer, you fight Lauren Price, she's after opponent. The winner of Meyer Price fights the winner of Tasha Habazan, and then you've got both of them again. You could have Meyer Tasha rematch, Price Tasha rematch for all the belts, all disputed in a huge women's event in May time. But I don't know, but for whatever reason, that isn't it. We'd do the Meyer fight. There's also the Katie Taylor fight, it's a great fight. That I still itch. I did hint at to Eddie when I seen him in Saudi that listen, them two walking off into the sunset. But it all depends on what Katie does. Katie might lose to Serrano, do a triple. She might beat Serrano and go, and that's me done. Tasha and Katie are at that very same part stage of the careers. It'd be great if we could do a last dance for two unbelievable ambassadors of female boxing the last 12 years, that they could go and have the last dance together. That's something else that I would hang on for. But the way things are going at Melbourne at Natasha, if she doesn't get anything soon, I've got a strong urge to walk away and retire. She's had a fabulous career, and to go out at the top with that fantastic woman, Michaela Mayo.
What conversations do you have with Ben Shalom and Boxer about this?
Tasha's talking to Ben Shalom, and we're hearing certain things in that, but you think, for me, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, when Boxer started on Sky, the people of Dan Aziz, Liam Smith, Natasha Jonas, there's somebody else. They were the 3 or 4, the Kelbrook Amir Khan fight. They were the 3 or 4 that got it going. There's the Dan Aziz story coming through, the Natasha story, the Liam Smith. And you look fast forward to now, and what did they end up doing with Liam Smith? What they ended up doing with Dan Aziz, and look how now they are treating with Natasha Jonas. So that's just my opinion. Anyone can say what they want, but I just don't think Liam Smith's been quite vocal on what he's thought of it. And Dan Aziz is an unbelievable talent, but I think he could have gone to bigger heights still. He's had the opportunities and the performance, but I just think to myself, it's not really the way you should have, especially Natasha for the great nights that she's given everyone.
Okay. I've got one more question while you're here.
Look, I'm in enough shit now, Kugan. Go
Last one. It came to me, which I actually watched your interview on TalkSport about camcorder recorders.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted you to give a bit more context on that. Obviously, I don't know if we're not using a camcorder there.
It's older than a camcorder.
That's not a camcorder.
Oh, let's split, yeah.
I know, yeah, but listen, I actually listened to it, and obviously, Joe, I've known you for years, and certain points of it I actually got in what you were saying on that. But yeah, just wanted you to give a little bit more context on that.
Well, because I feel I've done a few interviews. Look, if you look at the camera, there's half a dozen to line up. It's Frank there at the moment. But I think it's very easy for people to access boxing and get involved in boxing.
Very true.
Okay. I don't think you could rock up at Old Trafford or at Highbury and stand in the tunnel and wait for everybody to come out. You won't be allowed. So I do feel the barrier that's always between them has been broke. I've seen you in changing rooms, Kugan. My fighters ready to first access. That's private and off limits. You would never be allowed into the change room of Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City. It's off limits. You all sit in the press conference at the back, and I just think people are not beginning to respect the fighters, the trainers, the coaches, and have that. Fast forward, these same people never visit a gymnasium, never get the real story. So when I'm talking about old school journalists, these are old school journalists that went and watched Muhammad Ali, went and watched Frank Bruno, Charlie Magri, Tony Simpson, all these Barry McGuigan, and went and got to know them, got to know the background, went and watched them spar, went and watched them gym and got to know them. None of these here have ever been. Are you asking what boxing gyms have been in? When was the last time you were in a boxing gym?
3 days ago.
Okay then. Well, listen, you got yourself out of jail there. But the point being,
but Joe, I've been doing this for 14 years, and I've been in your gym a lot of time as well.
But do you understand the point I'm saying is this? So then all of a sudden then, this wanting access, or then they won't ask the questions. I see you online, don't you? No one's asking about allegedly silent bans with Eddie Hearn or Conor Benn or adding this, and it's just like old school journalists did. They did, whether it's Harry Mullen at Boxing News, whether it's Colin Hart, whether it's Jeff Powell, the period of journalists that before that, Reg Guthridge, Harry Carpenter on TV, it's very much, it's like everyone has to play the game. And you see, I revert back to something that I feel boxing is missing as whole. Football at the moment, people tune into to see what Roy Keane, Carragher, Micah Richards and everyone says after a match. Man United don't phone Sky up and go, get Roy Keane off that. Because they're like, we're paying it. So I feel in boxing, there should be, and they're missing out of it, especially in boxing, you could have 3 or 4 coaches, managers or whatever, in an overlap type of thing, next round or whatever, and then a show, and the promoters and the fighters and trainers should be able to take on criticism and say, well, no, that show wasn't good enough, it wasn't promoted right, that was the wrong fight for him, that was wrong. I do feel there's a pocket and a segment for that. I feel in the past, old journalists would do that and would say that, and I don't think that is the case now, and I just think the more and more, like you said, you started off and Jane Couch started off at the same time. I don't think there was many other. But if you look around here today, how many of them is here today? And that's where I'm saying about old school journalism. Old school journalism, there's the guy from Seconds Out that comes to the gym. There's one or two of them that do come to the gym yourself, that go to gymnasiums, but that's journalism where you're getting to know your fighter, Frank Bruno, you're getting to know Barry McGuigan, you're getting to, you build relationships up and everything else, and that's where you really get. I just think it's all, that's just generally like society say, oh, quick hits, quick finger, anything to...
A clickbait society.
100%, just like you want McDonald's now, you want this now, you want that now. TikTok's only 15 seconds, everything's got to be bang, 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 bang now, and that's just a shame really, it's just a shame. You see like the ones like Donald McRae, Thomas Hauser, they're at the end of it, and it's just like there's no really. Elliot Wilsall's a very good journalist. There's not many of them, and it's sad to see really that they're not really getting the understanding of these fighters coming through and having that access to a gymnasium and watching them and sitting down and getting to know them proper over a course of the time. I know you have access to AJ and Tyson and all that, but Joe, the other fellas that have come up, and I just reeled off a load of old school fighters that everyone knew there was a household name because of what they read in the paper.
Do you accept that it's 2025 though? It has been a changing game, especially over the last few years, and a lot of the people you're mentioning now, even the writers now, they're having to adapt to kind of where we are in 2025 right now.
I heard Frank say it the other day, from where he's been from Box Nation to TV to pay-per-view, it is changing everything else, but still at the same time, daft as it sounds, let's go back to the election the other night, Trump and Harris. They said people stopped listening. They weren't connecting with them. That's why they didn't win. Trump connected with them. And I feel it's all right, the clickbait, but no one they all know Joshua. But tell me outside Joshua and everyone else who the British public are connecting to in the same way they did with McGuigan, Bruno, Charlie Magri, Tony Simpson.
Yeah, but is that the media's fault, or is that the less accessibility to some of these fighters as well?
I suppose it's a mixture of everything.
Can any member of the media come to your gym, Joe, and start spending time with fighters? You're very private with your gym.
No, I understand, but it's in the context they take that way then, and they're using it for them in clickbait. Do you understand everything else? So Simon Jordan and TalkSport has gone popular because the casual man is driving down a motorway or working on a building site and the radio was on, or the wherever, listening to football. That's how that's blown up too much, because he's connecting. And there is a market for that out there, and I just feel that the story isn't being told like everyone used to build up from day one. Build up. Daniel Dewar, there's been a story, everyone's seen what a great job Frank's done with him, build up. Hamza Shiraz has been at one, there's been a build up. People getting to what he did with Nassim Hamid. Joe, from day one, you build a story so the public are related with them when they get that world title chance and that world title opportunity. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
They're happy, they've done the journey with them. But just turning up on a fight night and going, this kid's 18 and 0, I expect everyone to connect with them. Do you know what I mean?
I agree on that point, absolutely.
Yeah, do you understand? So that's it.
We should do a podcast about this, me and you, Joe.
Okay, I've been after a few podcasts, but you know what I'm like, Kugan, so there you go.
Now listen, I listened to your interview on TalkSport, and just to finish off on that, I did get some of your points, and also about kind of the click.
Maybe I'm a romantic and I miss it. Maybe I'm romantic, I miss it. I miss the journalists that used to come to Champs Camp and watch Frank Grant and Maurice Coe and Carl Thompson. Most probably I miss it, and most probably like the old school, most probably Adam Booth and Peter Fury and Dominic. We most probably just miss it, and we just say it's a shame, because I used to love reading boxing news or watching an interview or a paper and reading about them, and look at Barry McGuigan's backdrop story and Frank Bruno's and Eubanks and Ben's and Michael Watson's. Everyone connects to them. That's why they're still legends and now, and the four kings on Amazon Prime.
All right, well, listen, I know you want to go and watch your beloved Manchester United, so...
We're back, mate. We're coming back.
All right, well, listen, we'll see what happens. Joe Gallagher, thank you very much for talking to iFLTV, and listen, we'll catch up with you ahead of Lawrence Okolie's debut at heavyweight on December 7th.
Cheers, no problem, thank you.